what? You want to fight crime? Let's get dangerous.
And yes, it is. It is that time once again on a Saturday for us to have another episode of From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. I'm your host, Joe D. McPhee here. And today's show is going to be rather weird in one aspect, because I'm probably going to do an inadvertent PSA or something that could help you out in a little bit here, as well as tonight's topic is a bit weird, but nonetheless, we are here. We are ready to go here. And it is that time to get the business end of things out the way, such as stupid o'clock being 1 hour into the show. If we go to a second hour, that is followed up by Last Man Standing. Then you get a respite until Monday, until Nicholas Tucker gets on the air with Nevermind the Furthermore at 10 a.m. And yes, there will be another Comic Book Spectrum here at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. And as far as new comic book pickups for the week, guess what? We got to do it live, because why? It's not too many books here, and I did go to storage, but it wasn't really enough to be like, oh, I have to take them over to storage. So for new comic book pickups for the week, we're going to do it this way. These just came in today, so I'm going to do those last. And I'm going to do the things that came in first. What came in first was, we have Avengers 318 that came in today. Then we got a reader copy of Wonder Woman 234. That's an extra here. And it's a reader copy because they removed the actual insignia that's down there. So I don't know if this is newsstand or direct, but because that is removed here, and it's not, it's more of a reader copy here. And then we got some Whitman variants here. This one here is Wonder Woman 255, and then Wonder Woman 264. So we got Whitman variants of those things here. And then also on top of that, we got another copy of Daredevil 162. And I guess you all know what that is. That is the actual burial of Elektra. And then a couple of freebie books before I get to the book that I actually won. So one of the freebies that I won was the Jimmy Olsen 159. And then I got a Strange Sports #2 as a freebie. And then the book that I actually won was another Lois Lane 108, which is in nicer condition than the one that I already had here. So that was pretty good here. And that is pretty much new comic book pickups for the week here. I got several boxes I got a big box on the way here with some comics, and then some other stuff, odds and ends stuff still coming in. We're getting closer to finishing off a lot of comic book series, so I can't wait too much longer to do those new comic book pickups of the week and actually saying, hey, I have finished this, or I have finished that series, and I have finished that series, and I have finished that series. So we're getting close to a couple nonetheless here. So what we got here? You have your old niece and your two baby nieces here. Wait, old niece? Who's older than Beanie? Who's older than Beanie? Because Beanie and Lils are about the same age. Who's the older niece? Oh, okay, that's who's that? Oh, okay, that's who you call that. As in age wise, yeah. Okay, I know what you meant by that. I was like, oh, it's like I was just trying to equate that to which person that you were referring to. But anyway, the PSA for tonight, and it's only because I was in the middle of doing it before the show here. For those who want to submit stuff to CGC, I'm going to show you quickly what I typically do when I submit things to CGC because I got a couple of things that I'm going to send here due to the other stuff that I do beyond what I do here. What? Okay, I guess. That is pretty loud. Yes. Yep, that is true. That is true. I'm here, but the PSA here is if you want to submit stuff to CGC and you got your books and stuff in order and you go online, you print your packing slip, this is how you send the stuff over to them to make certain that your books and stuff stay safe here. Yes, you could spring what the 30 and 40 or no, I think it was like $15 to $20 for their pack. And all it is, and surprisingly enough, and sadly enough, is nothing more than a bubble wrap packing, a box, a regular box, and a Gemini mailer that could hold up to 10 books. That's their shipping, their shipping pack that they want people to buy. You don't have time for that. And besides, if you're like me, you get comic books on a daily basis, and you try to save those Geminis that they send you books in. This is how you submit your stuff to CGC. So right now I have this book going. I can't show you what it is because it's not mine and everything. And I got my packing slip right here. So as long as your books are following the order that you list them on your packing slip, and the only reason I have it this way because I'm not doxing myself, nor where I'm at right now. So as long as your books are in order, and since it's only one book, you take your packing slip here, you put that on top of your book here, and then if you got bubble wrap laying around or some type of paper wrapping to make certain that it's safe, you place it on your bubble wrap and you wrap up your book to keep it nice and pristine. And once you have it wrapped up like so, where your invoice is facing front, what I typically do is take some good old-fashioned invisible tape, Scotch tape, tape down the bubble wrap like so, like on that seam, tape it down, and then put 3 things of tape on each one of the edges. That way the book doesn't slide. So this gets around you buying like their packs here. Now, like I said, you don't have to use bubble wrap, but you could use, regular, packing paper or whatever you have handy to kind of wrap the books in to keep it nice and pristine. Or you could take a cheaper route and probably use like a bubble mailer instead to put it up in there. As long as it fits into a Gemini mailer, you should be good to go. So I'm just taping the edges right now. So this is kind of like the PSA for tonight here about sending stuff to CGC. So I'm not certain if this is going to help a lot of people, but it's something. So after you tape it down, you've noticed that it can't slip out that way. It can't slip out that way. It's pretty stable. Then you get yourself a Gemini mailer like so. You toss the book up in there, with the invoice facing upwards. You put it in the Gemini mailer like so, and you tape it down. You tape it down, and then you could put this in one of these, one of these priority mail mailers and mail it out that way. Or I have actual poly mailers that I use here. You send it off to CGC, and you're done. And that's pretty much how simple it is to send stuff off to CGC if you're not going to a show and everything here. Yep. I missed a lot of stuff here. Yep. Shipping packs. I mean, but it's a way for them to make money. That's the thing. It's like they were making those things available for novices in the collecting books that want to get graded. They made those available for those people who are novices and just don't know how to go about getting what they need to get here. But the main thing here is that you really don't need the Gemini mailers. The main thing, you do need to protect your book. So if you do have at least your bubble wrap or some type of bubble mailer, you could put your books up in there, make certain that you have your invoice, make certain that it's tight, and then ship it that way in a nice container where it won't get ripped up or anything to that matter. You should be good. But they did that to make money off of the novices in that. How many books do I normally send at a time? I think the most I have ever sent at one time was somewhere about 15, only because you have to have money sitting on the actual card that you give to them. So if you use like a credit card, that money is tied up until they actually grade your book. Because of the type of stuff that I do have like a business debit card. So I, put everything over there. Let it sit until they actually grade it and everything here. Yes, you pack them in the order on the list here, so it makes it, so it's like if your list have 1, Fantastic Four, 12, 2, yeah, it has to be in that order as they pull it up out of that packing. So it's like the first book that they need to see is that Fantastic Four 12. Then the second one has to be the Avengers 48. If it's not in that order, it slows down their process, and they just be like, okay, we're going to put this on the back burner. It's going to take maybe a couple more days because you didn't follow directions type deal. Don, the best is, the best to send is a minimum of 3 to make the return shipping worthwhile. That's the problem here. And I'm going to say this this way. The problem here is this. I wouldn't say minimum of 3. I would say minimum of 3 of the same category type. Like for example, I'm about to get ready to send 3 off. Then somebody gave me 3 to send off using my account here. The problem with sending the 3 off, 2 are in one category, the other one is in a different one. Not only do I have to create 2 different shipping packages to go out, both of them have their own shipping applied to it because it's not all of the same type. So if you're going to send books out, you have to make certain, if you're going to send 3 modern books, make certain that 3 modern books. If you're going to send 3 vintage books, send 3 vintage books. Unless you go for like the ultra high tier stuff, then it doesn't matter. And trust me, if you go ultra high tier, it got to be something worthwhile, or else it's not worth spending over $100 just to get the stuff graded. But normally it's like if you're going to do all modern, make sure it's all modern. If you're going to do vintage, and what I mean by vintage, according to CGC things here, anything from 1975 and before is considered vintage. So you have to make certain that the dates that when the books were created here. In this case, what happened here is that I have to send 2 on one packing slip and another on the one modern book. As itself, do I think it's worth $25 just to send 1 book? Probably not. But it's just the way that this happens, and they don't allow you to mix and match on these invoices, and that's the other problem. So you could have like you could have, and that's the weird thing about how they do their system. It's just weird in that aspect here. Yeah, usually send four. Normally, I send anywhere between, on average, like 3 to 5 at a time. There's a lot of times I might go all the way up to 15, but that means I have to have that money sitting there for a long period of time here. It's like $33 return for each book. Not exactly. Not exactly. The way that it works is based upon how you have everything set up. If you send in one book, as long as it's up under a certain poundage, you could get it sent back to you for $25 via FedEx. If you want signature confirmation, that's when it gets to $33 just for return shipping. Yeah, so if you do no, it's not about doing three. It's about certain poundage now. Back in the day, it was exactly how she said it. It was per book. Now it's because they only use FedEx. It's really one flat shipping rate through FedEx here, but it used to be that way. It really used to be that way, and it was a headache. It was a real big headache here. Yep, she will walk you through. She will walk you through it. She will walk you through the ins and outs, just like how I was walking you through the ins and outs of whatnot. I trim the ends of the Gemini mailer so it would fit a bubble. Yeah, or at least one end of it off. And the only reason I say it's one end that you trim off because if you trim this end off, that means that your book sits flapping all up and down in the Gemini box. So you have to trim this end where it doesn't have that bend. So you could trim that side down enough to make it fit into like a regular priority mail mailer. Or because like people like me, since I have to send out books that is get sold through the company store, I have poly mailers that fits the stuff in easily. Oh, interesting. I figured that they they pull immediately once you make slash. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Once they have it in their hands, that's the point of no return, which means that the order is now is considered started. So once you type it up, once you type up everything and you get the slip print out, it's not official until they actually receive it in hand. And technically, that you could print as many of these things as you want up, and they are only good, I think, for like 90 days before they remove it from their system. So that's the one good thing about it. But once you mailed it off and they receive it, that's the beginning of the process. And even if when they receive it, it's like it has a process. They have like a receiving process where they get it from U.S. mail or whatever carrier that they send it to. They mark it in as received, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have opened it up and started work on it. But once they have received it, via mail, that's when your order actually starts. When they open up the package, it's like depending on if you got pressing or not, they send it over to the presser. Once they send it to the presser, they charge your credit card, debit card, or whatever payment that you send, because you can send in checks, but you have to mail the checks in along with the books here. So that's when they start, they cash the check for they send it over to the presser, their pressers the check, and then they go ahead and start doing X, Y, and Z. And then after the presser, they come bring it back over to the grading portion. Then they charge you for the grading. And then once it's really ready to ship, they ship it out. But normally when it gets to the grading process, they grade it and charge you your shipping right then and right there. But that's how it is here. Yeah, that's what I meant. It's like the same category like all modern. Yep. I never go to ultra high tier unless you're sending like Fantastic Four. Yeah, because you have to make certain that something like that gets insured. And yes, you have to put the month and day, year, the book on the invoice. Yep, like Fantastic Four 1161. You and me both. You and me both. And that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of like knocking on wood here, because when FedEx do signature verification, if you're not there at the door as soon as they ring the doorbell, this is what's going to end up happening. They ring the doorbell, they wait 20, 30 seconds, they take your package, they take your package right back to the truck. And by the time you get to the door, it's like you see the man in the driver's seat. He looks over at you, you look at him, and you're like, "Hey, I'm here." He drives off. It's like you wasn't ready when I rang the bell. I hate that. I hate that type of stuff. But they don't want to use UPS. They don't use UPS or anything to that magnitude. And if I did use my UPS account that I do have, I really don't want to put money on there and try to guesstimate how many pounds that they're going to send to me, because whatever if I'm go over what I said, it would, if I go under what they said and it's over, if the package is over the weight that I originally thought it was, they would charge you extra. So it is what it is here. Yes, one end. Yeah, the top end. Yep. Yeah. Thai idiots will always leave my package wherever there's no proof or no ability to follow up. Yep. That's all it is. Yeah, they are the worst. They lost a package of mine from J. Scott Campbell. Yep. Yeah, I reported it. And then I got my package because an Asian girl called me. My number was on the package and was like, hi, did you order something for J. Scott Campbell? Yep. Yeah, I was like, yeah, it should have been here through FedEx. And she was like, yeah, they put my package and your package all in one box at FedEx, and they dang, wow. So that money is locked up until, yep, it's not, well, I wouldn't say locked up. For example, if you use a debit card, you have to take in consideration that, let's say you have like $600 in on your debit card, and you know that your all the stuff that you just graded takes 300. You always have to be mindful that you really only have $300 that you can use out of that account, mainly because that the $300 that you have did for your grading doesn't come out immediately. It only comes out once they finish grading everything. Oh, that wasn't too bad. If she just lived up the block, that's not too bad. So you met up with her, you're like, yep. Never use their presser. That's crazy. Yep. So I reported to FedEx because there was no delivery. So I said, well, I never got it. And once it hit, it vanished. They said it's like the ship, yes, the shipper needs to contact us. And I was like, it's a company. I doubt they would go through this insane process to prove that they sent a package. So when you know that they did and you tracked it all, yeah. And then poof, it's gone. So I thanked the Asian girl and I got my package, and thank God that she was like, oh, it's a number on there. Let me call it or text. Yeah. It's like, fuck. I'm Rick James. FedEx like, I'm Rick James. So I get it. I always opted for United States Post Office registered when they did that, and that's been a long time ago. Since they stopped doing that. And it's been a long time ago since I think they don't even allow us to use UPS to send it back for our own carrier. It's like if we get the stuff back, we could use whatever they use, or we have to use whatever we have on FedEx. And I was like, no, I don't really like FedEx. No, that's where are you getting that from? So Don, yeah, if you spend the money, let's say on a debit card, and you need $203 for CGC, you have to have it back on by June 9th, or they will charge you, they would charge you August 12th, and then they charge you, you would get ding for every part of that process. Like for example, I still have 6 books on my regular account that I still have to wait to find out. But the good thing about it is that I have $150 credit because of my annual membership, so it won't be that bad. It won't be that bad once they take it out. And then they already took out all the books that I sent on my RS account. And yes, I'm getting back a lot of Signature Series of a lot of the sketch covers that I did. Yeah, ding as far as your bank and overdraft fees. If you use a debit card, that is. That's what you was talking about. Yeah, being overdrawn. Yeah. Oh, right. I mean, you mean, yeah. Yeah, CG says like, will be, yeah, hey, pay us full. Yeah. And they will hold your stuff until you pay. They will hold your stuff until you pay. They would be like, oh, you have to update your credit card. They would be like, you have to update it, and you only have so much time to update it too. If you don't, if you get to the point where it's like, okay, we're about to be in the greatest status, and you sitting there, it's like, okay, it's been beyond the normal grading period. What's taking so long? And it's like you see this red little square. It's like payment needs to be updated, and it will actually they will actually push your stuff back to the back of the line because you didn't pay it on time when they got to your stuff here. So it's always good just to have it sitting there. Just don't touch that money that they need. That way you're guaranteed everything will flow smoothly here. So that's the PSA for today of how to send stuff to CGC. So on that note, let me do one other thing here. See, this is the 1 book, and that's the 2 books. That way I don't get confused. They all go into the same place, but one is just not done here. So wait, what did Beanie say? Oh, hold on. Yeah, they'd be like, yep, oh, no money, back of the line. Yep, they will do that. Beanie says preservation sounds hard. Yeah, it does. It does sound hard. That's why a lot of people still opt for my light and bag, my light bag and board. And I'm like, yeah, that's not real preservation. That's really not real preservation because you can still argue about condition. And for insurance purposes too, you don't want the claim adjuster sitting there being like, oh, you said that was near mint. How do I know that? It's in a bag. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's in that condition. Who certify it? Don is asking what she got through J. Scott Campbell, Harley Quinn 75, J. Scott Campbell, and a Miss Marvel mirror. Oh, cool. The second one is cool because you showed me what the image from the book that came from. Yeah, this was a while ago. Okay. And there's Aaron here. Yeah, they're not hermetically sealed, however. That's the other thing. That's the other thing. But I don't think comic books need to be hermetically sealed, because if it got to that point, this whole thing, the whole scandalous type thing that everybody wants to talk about as far as, oh, you could, crack it out make whatever corrections here and get a better grade would not happen if it was hermetically sealed. Because if it was a hermetically sealed, that literally voids the grade. And you have to go through that whole process all over again. And it should be harsher. They should be harsher because now you messed up the actual, if I could say, original grading for it. But that's just me. Yeah, the inner well is hermetically sealed, AA Ron. You're done messed up, AA Ron. You messed up. You could tell that she's in her feisty mode right now. But I could say this here. She's overly happy, and I'm happy for her today. But that's what the real thing is really about here. But our topic for tonight is not one to be happy about. Because when I sit back and think about things here, I'm up here more along the lines like, yeah, maybe people like myself are to blame. I don't like that CGC labels are sealed in the inner well, unlike CBCS label where you can easily change the label from a 9, to a oh boy. Yeah, it's like, why not hermetically seal them? Then we can regard them as my precious. That's because we already got too many people being all Gollum-like about their books already. They're already going around talking about my precious. This. And that's another thing. They're up here talking about doing a Gollum movie, and I'm up here. It's like that could be a great thing, but it also could be a bad thing too. But that's a whole nother conversation altogether. Yes, I get told twice a day. Yep. And that makes you feel all pleased. So that's why I said she's happy. Let her be happy. I'm happy for her. Oh, by the way, I just was sealing up the Gemini mailer. Yeah, I'm using up my normal tape that I use for campaigns and sending out books from CGC Studios, but I have to mail stuff off. Here. But nevertheless, yeah, by my wife and my daughter. The WTC elevator shaft were how they worked that out. And there's a lane here. B says a piece of a CGC moisten to use tape. Yep, that's what this stuff is. But I'm about to put the rest of it back. This roll is almost over halfway done. And I got another roll behind me. So I got what I need out of it. I gotta get the stuff ready to send off probably Tuesday or Wednesday. So Elaine got here when we're going to start talking about the main topic here. And like I said, it's a strange one. And I'm sitting back and it's like I'm up here. The more I think about it, the more I'm getting to the point where it's like, yeah, we are to blame. B said, oh no. Oh no. No. Well, I'm not going to comment on that one. That one I'm going to let life and time be the comedic teacher in that. I'm going to let time be the karmic teacher in that here. Yeah, as far as being blunt, yeah. Yep. No, I did not say indie. I didn't say indie. I'm going to say all creators. I'm going to say all creators. But let me get to the point. Let me get to the point where I'm up here talking about to tonight's question here, because, and again, Parallax, you can attest to this too, because over the week we've been having conversations in our normal channels and stuff to that magnitude, where it be, online claim sales, whatnot. When you get around other collectors and everything, people talk about books, people talk about how things are going, the comparison between back in the day to now. And when we talk about the here and now, one of the things that always comes up is, oh, the stories are so W, or this, that, and the other is just so bad, and this, that, and the other is yada, 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 yada. And we're getting all these writers who have never written comics writing comics now, and this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 blah. Usually my comment would be, well, that's because we don't have real editors anymore. And the fact that we don't have real editors, and that most of the decisions are being done by marketing and accounting, makes these books the way that they are. But for today's show, it's like, let me take a step back here. Marketing and accounting do have to listen to pitches based upon what their research dictates. But at the same time, it still takes a creative team to make the book. So I ask, are we the creators at blame for this as well? And the answer to that question is probably yes. Because again, looking at the influx of newer people coming into comics that usually write for other mediums, first and foremost here. I'm not saying that somebody who writes for television is a bad writer. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying somebody who have written textbooks is a bad writer. No, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying in general, we got more and more people who have never written comics or in a comic medium getting into the limelight with established characters and not being forced to go back and research those characters. They are given free reign over legacy characters per se, just to tell a story or to set up a story arc based upon market research that their accounting and marketing departments look at. So yeah, marketing and accounting plays a role, but when you really look at the story that's being told, it comes back down to that creative team. And one of the things that came back to my mind was the fact that I forgot the name, because we talked about W books, and for those who don't know why I use the letter W, because I don't like the term, because I always would go from what you became aware of something from what you was asleep to what so those who know me know what word I'm talking about here. So I know I'm about to get back to the point. It's like, yeah, all these guys that are like, ASM is so bad lately, they won't drop the title, like me and 1,000 others. Yeah, because they need every issue. Because again, that's the collector's habit. That's their habit more so than anything else here. Not just the marketing idiots. You got a lot of people that's on writing teams now that never picked up a comic book. I know of the character because of the simple fact that I might watch a cartoon or two, but they won't go back and read the history or the lore or what was done before. They just like, I have an idea that we can do this, that, and the other, and I'm going to take the bare minimal and write my story. That's what I'm referencing to. Yes, I am. I'm about to go ahead and do that. That's why I say it's like this is the reason why I have to take that step back, because I have to look at the bigger picture. Because I have to put myself in that same category here, Aaron, because I'm writing comics too. But when I started, I actually went back and started looking at what they did in the past. I started truly researching how writers did what they did, the different methods. Then I started looking at studying characters and studying the design of pages and studying all the other stuff that is needed to make a good story. But at the same time, you got people who, let's just say, I can't think of the guy's name here. And the reason why this topic came up because in one of the claim sales, we was talking about W books, and somebody reminded me of the pitch for New Warriors. And the person who was going to be the lead writer on it came from Comedy Central because he worked with The Daily Show. Has no clue about writing for comics as far as a medium. He wrote for television for a long period of time. And he comes up with characters that were so politically charged and was really like making more of a political comment than telling a story than anything else. And Marvel shelved it at the 12th hour before it hit stands. Those are the types of creators that I'm referencing here, more so than anything. That maybe we need to take that step back, because again, I don't know everything about the industry, and I'm going around talking to others who have been in this industry a lot longer than I have. And to kind of quote another fellow creator, and he always asks a question to each and every comic book creator out there, the same question each and every time. And shout outs to JD Calderon, because that question, it struck a nerve with me, but at the same time, he has a point. That question is, why are you writing a comic? If you want to tell a story, you could write a novel. You could write an illustrated story. You could do a short story. You could do an essay. You could do all these other means of telling that story. But why are you choosing comics? Why are you using this medium? That's something that each and every creator has to think about. And that's one of the things that stuck out and holds true. Now, mind you, JD Calderon has a pedigree that really, people should look up, because he has done a lot of independent titles for many different companies here. And he would just solely ask you that question. And sometimes, he would hear that answer and he'd be like, uh-huh. uh-huh, you might not be ready for this, or you haven't thought about everything about your story. And that's kind of like the thing that that's have to resonate. It's like, do you really love this medium to refine your craft to make it work? That's kind of like the bottom line that you have to get to here. Like Doctor Who just got canceled for no one was watching. I don't blame, I blame the horrendous scripts that since, but again, that comes back to the creative staff and where they're going with it. Are the creative staff do have a major say in how things go. A handful of the boys who can't find a girlfriend that does not need inflating wine and everything and freaks out. Yeah, I agree. Well, people like Kelly Sue McCormick was criticized for the stories, and she said, if you don't like my politics, then don't buy the book. So people were like, F you, and then they didn't buy the books, and they didn't buy her books. They didn't buy her books and her books. Well, that's the thing here. Kelly, if I remember correctly, Kelly Sue D. McCormick was responsible for the Mockingbird T-shirt cover more so than anything. And to be quite fair and honest, I read the politically charged Bitch Planet from beginning to the end. She was making a statement, but she also told a story. Now, if you don't like what the topic that she's talking about, why are you investing in the story? That's a good question. Dan Slott said the same thing. It's like, I only listen to complaints from customers, and if you're not buying a book, you're not a customer. So if you're not reading based upon something that I'm basing a story off of, and you haven't read it or you haven't bought it to read it, how can you say that you're a customer? Are you saying that you want to be spoon fed marketed to, which these corporations are now doing? Or do you want a story being, a good story that may be told, but not in a way that you expected, but yet it's not going to be spoon fed the way that you love it? Maybe that's part of the problem. But it does come back to the creative talent and how they present that story. Yeah, yeah, that's the one thing. The general population is quick to cancel people, especially if they feel that you tick them off enough to make you go from being liked to being hated. And yeah, with Kelly Sue D. McCormick, when she was doing a lot of Marvel titles, she got politically charged, and she got pretty much canceled. Well, I wouldn't say canceled, but there was definitely some titles that should have lasted longer. Mockingbird, I wouldn't say that, but what was it called, Captain Marvel and the Carol Corps, that book should have been an ongoing title because it had a successful run as a miniseries, and it was good enough where it deserved its own title. It had a readership here. But because of some of the comments that she made about that title, they never came back to revisit it. And you could guess why. She had a pretty decent run with Captain Marvel. But again, some of her personal beliefs where some of the readership didn't like, change that. Does it change the fact that she's a good storyteller? No. But when you come out with comments like that, it's like, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my books. Guess what's going to happen? People are not going to buy your books despite the fact that you're a good storyteller. But that's kind of like the cross you got to bear as a creator. Yeah, instead of listening to the people buying her books and expanding the mythos, she doubled down and lost more sales. Yep. But again, here's the other thing. Let's just say would Kelly Sue D. McCormick work very well with an editor like Jim Shooter? Probably not. Because Shooter would understand that, you know what, the readership is asking for this. They really don't care about the political stance that you want to take. If you're going to bring it up in story, bring it up in story and leave it there. Let them form their own opinion on it. You don't have to ham fist it. When corporate marketing teams got rid of editors like that, there's going to be some people, I should say some people, there's going to be some creators that will go that ham-fisted method to try to prove a point. And that doesn't work. It really doesn't work here. And yeah, thanks for clearing that up, making certain that the audience understand what I mean by a W book. Because every book out there, to me, at least in the current aspect of what's being printed in the modern age of comics, are not W books. But there are a lot of creators out there that do deal with a lot of W topics, and they're not telling it organically. If the stories were told organically, I don't have a problem with it. It is what it is. That's just how life is. But if you're ham-fisting certain things, then you're taking away from the discovery, the actual natural order of storytelling. Because some of the stuff, you have to look at it from the standpoint of an outside observer being unbiased. Yeah, collectors can be ruining the industry, especially popular characters. Yeah, you could kind of say that. You could kind of say that. I don't see collectors having too much to say because they vote more so with their money. If you don't like what's being produced, you just simply don't buy it. But it also begs to question why there are so many collectors today that buy solely on art as opposed to story. You got a lot more people that will buy a J. Scott Gamble cover and care less about what's inside the book. You got more people buying Peach Momoko stuff because of the cover as opposed to the contents of the book. That, to me, is a problem. It's a big problem. Yeah, back in the day, the editor of the book knew the lore, and they had the Wonder Woman Bible, for a lack of a better term. See, I'm not going to fall into that trap because I'm not going to bring that person up here. Oh, Wendy would never do that. You would need to change page 17 on page 8. On page 8 of Superman. Superman can't be there because of X of his book. Now Wolverine is in 18 places at once in current continuity. That is so true. And again, that comes back to things that were said in the past, and Jim Shooter said it best. If you wanted to see Wolverine, you need to buy X-Men. There was no need for Wolverine to have his own book. And he was like, he would say it's like there's no need for a lot of characters to have their own book just because they're popular. They don't need to have their own book unless you could justify it by telling stories that is truly unrelated to the team that they're on. And Trinity sucks. I want Yara Fleur to be pushed that nabbit. She wants me to go there. I gotta resist here. And with Yara Fleur, I have to blame the transition between Warner Brothers to Discovery. I have to resist my anger for that one. Yara Fleur lost her push the moment when CW canceled her show. I was so mad. I was so pissed off. And the reason I was mad and pissed off because by the numbers, she was the only character that was making DC money after Batman. The hype for her hyped up a possible, and as they said, it's like her character has been optioned for a television show. Everybody loved the book, loved what Janelle Jones was doing, despite the rotating creative teams that DC was using because they're trying to stop the hemorrhaging of money for Discovery to buy them. And then all of a sudden, they cancel Wonder Girl. And a lot of people still feel that the cancellation of Wonder Girl was solely due to the fact that CW scrubbed the TV show that they was about to do for Yara Fleur. Despite what the comic book was doing, according to Comic-Con, despite the numbers, it canceled because of what CW did and the fact that the rotating creative teams could not keep up for that book. So those were the two factors, which proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that when corporate accounting and marketing get their hands on a title that actually works, they could be a detriment to it. But I would digress here. Yeah, his New Warriors was like a spoof of, but that's the thing. Why are you going to take an established team to say, okay, we're going to add these new characters, we're going to create a brand new lore, and it's not even, I wouldn't even say it's a spoof. It was pitched as, this is stuff that teenagers from 13 to 16 actually go through on a daily basis. You're a comedy writer. That's not the way to go about doing that. You don't spoof it. Especially since the majority of the readership is not 13 to 16-year-olds. That's one of the reasons why I said we as creators might be at fault for that. One of the things that the corporate marketing was like, yeah, that sounds good to get that group in. But what they failed to realize is that the longtime readership of New Warriors is not that age group. You're focusing in trying to get something for that age group, but yet you haven't created anything for that age group. You're taking something that has been established, where that age group that follows New Warriors is probably somewhere on the outskirts of 21 and older, and you're going to put this out. You're 21 and older are going to be like, "What the bleep is this?" That 13 to 19-year-old going to be like, "What the bleep is this?" This is something that we didn't ask for. We didn't want this. We don't talk about this type of stuff. This is foreign to us. So, it was a big mistake. It was a big mistake. I'm glad they canceled it at the 11th hour. I'm glad that they did, because it would have failed. It would have been one of the biggest controversies that had ever hit Marvel if it ever reached printed. But that's a good thing that it never did. Yeah, those are solid points that you're making, Joe. Now, you're asking why are you telling stories as a comic, right? To a certain degree, yes, because you don't have to always write as a comic. You could create novels, you could create and anthological short stories. You could do it in smaller doses. Comics is not the only medium that you could choose to write in. And that was one of the reasons why I chose this topic, because when I started seeing more people from film and television and, uh, textbooks, regular novels and everything, all of a sudden jumping ship to come over here, and seeing the types of stories that are coming out based upon the corporate marketing that's being done, it makes you wonder. This person wrote this more like a novel, but it's not really fitting the comic genre per se. This person who came from television missed the whole boat about canon. Yeah, it looks good, it sounds good, but the characters don't do that on a normal basis. You change their mythos. You need to go back to the drawing board and look at history. And rebooting the comic book to a number one doesn't resolve mythos. But those are the types of things that I'm looking at with this question here. Yeah, but Kelly can't use that argument when writing her characters that she didn't create. Exactly. That's why Bitch Planet was as successful that it was, because that was her own creation. With Mockingbird and Carol Danvers, she couldn't go full bore. And she didn't. To a certain degree, she didn't. She would make those jabs. She would put those jabs up in those books, but she wouldn't go full bore. Bitch Planet was one of the few titles that she went full bore. She didn't ham-fist it. She didn't ham-fist it the way that everybody thought she was going to do it. The one thing that I do fault her is that the universe that she set up never had a defining, if I could say, event to cause the world to be the way that she portrayed it. You went on a journey, and trust me, you went on a journey, and a lot of people who liked the ideology loved it. A person like myself is like, okay, I understand where you're going with this. I understand what you're saying. I understand. I loved a lot of the backstory for a lot of the characters, because it made you feel for those characters. But the one thing that constantly took me out of that book was never truly understanding the world that it was set in, and why the people in that world took this mentality. That was the key thing. That was the key thing that was constantly throwing me off. But once I separated that line of thinking from the rest of the story, I was able to follow it and enjoy it. But it's still nagged that the greater population in that universe never stopped to think, oh, why are we doing this? You know, why are we taking this stance? Why are we taking this traditional stance over here as opposed to being more open? But that's just me. Exactly, Aaron. Bitch Planet is her own creation, not Miss Marvel. Yep. And Miss Marvel is a superhero book and not a slice of life. I'm not sure how I'm going to respond to that. Because saying something like that is almost saying like, well, if Spider-Man is considered a superhero book, how do you explain Ditko Spider-Man, where Ditko Spider-Man made superhero and slice of life work together? But that's just me. Yeah, I like Bitch Planet, but there's nothing to do with Carol Danvers with saying exactly. That's why, Captain Marvel and the Carol Corps was so good, because it wasn't about Carol truly being a superhero per se. It was about her being kind of like that mentor for a fighter wing and going back to her roots as a fighter pilot and talking about actual history, United States Air Force history. That was ingenious. That took some research. That took some guts to create. But towards the tail end, the politics came in. Did it hurt the story? But I wouldn't say it was the beginning of the end for that particular series and that run. It was just more along the lines. It's like, I think that was where things were about to get ready to be doubled down on. And that's a problem. Yeah, that all goes back to your point. Variant covered buyers is a poor man's art collection. Exactly. I had a seller that tried to argue with me because like I stated, we're basically buying prints. You're not buying the original artwork anymore. Why? Because most modern comics today are done digitally. It would be different if we were buying the Bristol boards. If somebody was lucky enough to start buying Bristol boards at 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 1,000, 2,000, $3,000 a pop, then you could say, hey, not only am I a comic book collector, but I got the original page sitting right here. That's one of the reasons why with Amazonia I still do my pencils on Bristol boards. Ooh, I did not know that. Cool. She said Wonder Woman got mentioned in Captain Klutz. Cool. Yeah, the majority of collectors and sellers aren't reading the contents of the storylines. And I've been saying that for the longest in the modern era. It's like a lot of these modern books, unless it's an independent book, unless it's something that's not Marvel, DC, Image, or somebody that's of a bigger publisher, the greater majority of the people are not reading the stories. And that's what makes, the smaller press and independent press is so valuable today. People are actually reading our stories. They're looking for something new and different and want to discover that next big thing. I'm not saying that Marvel and DC sucks, because there's still good stories that's being told, but it's few and far between because of some of the corporate marketing that they've been doing as of late. I only collect comics that I love reading. I bought, a pocketbook edition of the Mad Magazine. Yeah, that's cool. We talked about that. That book came out when I was 6, and I still love it. And that's what this industry is about: is telling the stories that we love and actually sharing it to the next generation. But when we, if I could say, murk up that history and make things murky for the next generation to like it, That's a problem. I mean, it's sad. It's sad, and I'm going to say this, and I know some of you might jump down my throat here. I find it sad that the younger generation love things like My Hero Academia. When I look at My Hero Academia, it spoofs the superhero genre, but at the same time, it's writing a good superhero story. One Punch Man spoofs the superhero genre, but it tells a great story. When was the last time I could actually say that about something that Marvel or DC came out with? Image, every so often I might find something. It's like, Image, we just had 8 billion genies not too long ago. Excellent story. I forgot who did Do a Powerbomb. Great story. We get those needles in a haystack when it comes to smaller press and independent publishers that just stand out and it's just some of the greatest things that ever lived. But because I'm using the term the N word mainstream in this standpoint, because the greater population knows who Batman is, who Superman is, who Wonder Woman is. Those are the people who, when you go to like who goes to the comic book stores and look at what's coming out now in those books, and they might actually be turned off to it because it's not the same as it was years ago. It doesn't have either the same whimsy or the same nostalgic effect. The stories are not the same. But yet, you expect people to buy into a lot of the political aspects that is being talked about now and expect them to love it. That's not how it works. Not how any of it works. I remember liking the new Wonder Girl. Yep. Well, Parallax, I agree with the statement, but I agree with it for a different reason. I could actually tell you why it's awful. I know you could tell other people why you think it's awful, but I know my reason why I know that character is awful, because she never was developed. She was just like thrown in front of us and just like, accept that she's here. They never developed her. Have they told some stories about her? Yes. As a kid, but not as far as making her likable. She's not a likable character. And these bigger companies are making these unlikable characters and forcing us down and forcing them down our throats. And I just don't like it. I just don't like it. Develop the character. Give the character some meaning. Give them some meat and potatoes to make us like them. Just like the whole thing about, Damian Wayne. For a minute, people hated Damian Wayne until they start writing stories to make you like that character. Elizabeth Marston has not had that yet. The character is a waste of space. Yep, and we had a Wonder Girl in Yara Flor, who in the last version of Amazon's Attack officially got the title of Wonder Girl from Diana. Diana officially made her a Wonder Girl. And again, this is after the fact that you did a future state where it was proven that Yara Flor became the next Wonder Woman. And then all of a sudden it's just like, nope, you can't have it. Here's Trinity. And we're going to be like jumping up and down for joy for Trinity. who has no background, no history, no nothing, and we just going to accept the fact that, oh, that's Diana's daughter. How? I mean, granted, I'm not going to be ignorant as a lot of these, as what parallax would call dude bros are talking about. Well, who's our father? No, I don't care. Develop the character. We got zero as far as the character's development is concerned. Zero. I could care less about her childhood, where Diana was never involved in. All her stories in her childhood was centered around Jonathan and Damien, either babysitting her or taking her on adventures and all this other stuff. So, in other words, Elizabeth, aka Trinity, was nothing more than Johnny Quest. We got a superhero version of Johnny Quest. That means nothing to me. There's no development there. None. You're Diana's daughter. She would normally take firsthand accountability in teaching her the ways of the Amazon. But yet we get these stories. Right. But I digress. And yeah, for the future. Yeah. Yeah, they made her the new Wonder Woman though without building her up more. They gave us a good reason why she was when she came out in Future State. It made people go back to Volume 1 of Amazon's Attack and talked about the tribe that was in South America, because that was one of the first times that they mentioned all four tribes being there all together at one time, was in that Volume 1, and about how they alienated that one tribe of Amazon. So when Yara Flor came out as the new Wonder Woman in Future State, there was nothing really to build her up other than the fact that's like, go back and read Wonder Woman history, and that it could have been a possibility that could happen. But I agree. But at least they came out shortly after Future State Wonder Woman. They gave Yara Flor her book and built her up. They explained her lore of why and how she became a Wonder Girl for that particular tribe, and how the division of all the tribes pretty much had like at least one member that was technically on the same class as Diana. But that's getting like the cart before the horse here. But I get your point, Aaron. It's like they didn't really build it up. It kind of like happened, and then after it happened, it's like, now we're going to give you everything that you wanted prior to her being announced as the next Wonder Woman or the new Wonder Woman. Yet Future State had Yara Flora of Wonder. Yep. And have her to be with Damien and John as their sister. Yeah. B say, oh, Uncle Joy said beach. Beach. Yeah, that is a great point. Yep. I admit I'm a huge Jim Belant fan, but if he did a cover for a random book I didn't read, like Deadpool, I would buy a copy. And that's perfectly fine. Because if you love an artist, buy whatever you like for that artist. I get it. That wasn't the point here. Oh, where did I mess up? Where did I mess up here? Oh, by the way, everybody meet John Celestri. John Celestri, this is everybody that normally hangs out with me here on my normal live stream here. For those who don't know who John Celestri is a animator, most noted for movies like Rock and Roll, some of the animations in Dragon Slayer and Space Ace. He was also the lead animator in the Star Wars special that dealt with Boba Fett. And he has written several different novellas, as well as the comic book series for Bloodwing Angel. So he should know. He's one of the few people that I talk to about the industry and getting, the actual history and learning a thing or two about how things were really done. So yeah, he's a source. He's a good source to talk to. Yeah, like Milkbone put out a box with an ad with the Superman Legacy that was called the movie because Soup's and Crypto in the comic book. Yeah, and they wanted $70 for it, and we was like, yeah, it's a promo book. Yep. But the point that I was making about you doing it on animation paper is that they're physical. Those are original drawings. They're physical. People can technically buy the original. When it's digital, there is nothing, or there's nothing that really stands out. Everything would be a print. There would never be a true original. And if people were collecting art, I would rather have the original than a print. I would rather have the master copy than the copy itself, if I could afford it. That was the point I was making there. Nice. John, old school. Yep. Evening, John. Oh, that's a good question. I forgot what he said about that. It's like she was asking if he was using onion skin paper. Yeah, I'm from the old school. High parallax. Yep. Yeah, I use old school animation bond paper on my animation disc and light table. Yep. The paper has a bit of onion skin in its composition. So that answers Elaine's question here. Yeah, yes. In certain art stores, the type of paper was listed as onion paper, not as sheer as the basic tracing paper. Yep. Yeah, but Yara was also interesting. Why not just let the character be Wonder Girl for a few years? And again, like I said, that's like that gets me back on my soapbox, which I'm not going to get back on, about how marketing and crossing over other mediums came into play to the downfall of her first series. Holy crap, Mo! You worked on Rock and Roll? Yes. She's like, we're not worthy. She's doing the Wayne's for we're not worthy. We're not worthy to John here. And that's kind of like the key thing here. But like I said, I asked this question more in reflection. You know, what can a creator do to keep this from happening? Yep. And he's saying, Elaine, I animated Cindy. And now she's squeeing here. Yep. But that's the whole crux of the matter. It's like this the reflection about, are we truly as creators telling a good story in this medium? And what are we truly doing to make certain that we tell a great story in this medium? Are we doing our homework? Or are we just resting on our laurels that we're just good writers and it doesn't matter? I believe it does matter when you know the medium inside and out, and that you could learn how to create something brand new that probably hasn't been done before, but at the same time fits into the medium itself. Yeah, please hit the like, friends. Yes, please, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. If you like this content today, like it. But the major thing here is my Saturday show is always an interactive show. You guys out there, and you can see those that have been chatting along with me here, you got to say in the conversation as well. I don't sit up here and preach to say you're right or you're wrong and this, that, and the other. I take in consideration of how everybody thinks. So this is the good thing here. Oh, you leaving already, John? Don't leave. Don't leave because of that. But I'm happy that you jumped in and seeing what I was doing here. I'm actually quite honored because it's been a while since we have talked. It's been a while since we have talked here, but I just don't know why this topic came up outside of the conversation talking about the one writer from the Daily Show trying to pitch the New Warriors comic not too long ago. But that just, I don't know, something about reliving that conversation brought this topic up for me. Dude, I spent nearly 2 weeks gathering all my printed sources, script pages and everything, notes and everything to work on book two. And that's the way that you're supposed to do it. It's like you do the homework, do the work to learn what makes this medium work correctly for the type of story that you want to tell. That's the key thing here. Have a good night, John, if you leave here. Yeah. And everybody's saying don't leave. But you know, well, yeah, he's on Eastern time zone too. So it's getting close to like it's like almost 11:30 there because it's almost 10:30 here. So if he's on the Eastern time zone, like with like parallax and everything, it's almost getting close to midnight. So I could understand why he might be leaving. Yeah, good on you. Exactly. But that's the reflection that I have here. It's just more along the lines. It's like, are we really pitching good stories, or are we just coming up with stuff on the fly that might sound good, but we can't execute because we don't know the medium all that well? Not everybody is meant to write in this medium. Not everybody is meant to draw in this medium. It doesn't mean that they have the capability. It I have to find out why the dog is barking a little bit later. It doesn't mean that you don't have the capability of doing it, but the thing about it is, are you good enough to actually build a actual story? It's not about always following tradition per se, because technically my art style doesn't follow the tradition of comics 100%. But at the same time, it's about understanding how to use comic panels to tell a story without burning it down with dialogue and everything like to that magnitude. It's a way to express a story to a greater degree than anything else here. And Lane is saying that it was lovely to meet John Celestri here. Yep. Please make some of us your moderators, Joe. We really believe. Yeah, that's not a problem. I just have to figure out. Well, give me a second here. I could jump out here to YouTube because most people are watching YouTube. I could jump out here to make people moderators or YouTube real quick. Just bear with me for a few moments here because I have to try to do this well. Okay, I muted my laptop here. And I do apologize for bringing this to a screeching halt while I'm doing this here. But it's just the way that my mind works. It's like if I get sidetracked to a certain degree, I would get I get to the point where it's like, oh, I need to do X, Y, and Z and do what I need to do as a whole here. Let me see. Okay, we got the moderators taken care of. I think I would know here in a few minutes once you guys comment again. So I did the moderator thing. Yep, I see that Aaron's moderator status is there. He got his little wrinchy thing here. Also, now the show will grow. I'd rather listen to somebody who contemplates and thoughtful as you. Yeah, I try to be. I try to be. I try not to be a one-dimensional type thing and be like the world is coming to an end. It's like, nah, it can't be coming to an end. But if it is dire, I would say it's dire. If it's not, I'd be like, hey, maybe we need to take a step back and think about X, Y, and Z here. Yep, you got wrench too. That's right, Elaine. You got wrench too. And I think there's one other person that got a wrench here, but I will let them discover it. The Blue Crew. Yep. Nah, this is a non-paying gig here, but you've been here long. You've been here long enough to know how things flow. So it's kind of like, hey, help keep the room going without having a lot of nonsense arguing amongst the crowd out there. But this crowd never argues with one another like that, so it is what it is. So, like I said, totally interactive show. I try to take care of the people who take care of me. Without you guys watching, I would probably be sitting here twiddling my thumbs and being ready to leave for the day here. Yeah, abuse of power. Here I go. Yeah, Elaine does put up I forgot the term, sped up time lapses of her artwork and stuff to that magnitude from time to time here. She doesn't really do like an interactive show like I do, but she is a part of Comic Book Spectrum. So that's the key thing here. So outside of that, I think that pretty much sums up the topic here because I do feel like to a certain degree as a creator, part of this is I am to blame for it as a creator because it takes me to do my due diligence to know exactly the history, the audience for anything that I write that is not my own creation. So if they hire me to write Wonder Woman, she's saying bacon for all. I got bacon for all, and it's like thank you. It's like thank you. It's like I'll look you up on the next video. Oh, speaking of which, are you still doing another claim sale on Monday, Aaron? So you will still tell your comics, tell your story via comics. Yes, I'm still going to tell it via comics. I'm here for the long haul. I'm here for the long haul. So my question that I posed for tonight was just more of a retrospective of just thinking about what has happened. It's like how it usually when you come into the comic book industry, you have to start with independent or self-publishing and work your way up to get into like a Marvel and DC. But nowadays, it seems like, they're letting anybody who has a name, who is a known writer, come in, who may have never written for this genre before, don't know how things work, don't know the audience coming in with these major companies. And that within itself has been, stifling a lot of growth in the industry. Not to say that, their work is not welcome or anything. I'm not saying that. But when you know your audience, when you know the characters, when you know the lore, it makes things 10 times easier. It's just like me coming in to write Cabbage Patch Kid, the comic book series. If I don't know the characters all that well, and I just up here, just up and just say I don't care to learn about the characters and do what I want to do, that's a problem. That should be a problem with any editor. An editor should see that as a red flag, and the marketing group should see that as a red flag. Unless the marketing group is saying, "Hey, we don't care about the old readers," and then at that point, I just really think that the company is making a big mistake at that point. But that's just me, and that's kind of like the retrospective that I want others to take here. Going back to what J.D. Calderon said before, why comics? Why are you doing this in comics? It's not the fact that you can't do it. It's more of a conscious question as far as, out of all the mediums that you could have used, why comics? Think about it. Think about why you're choosing comics over just writing a novel or writing poetry or creating an illustrated story or writing sonnets or just, writing bits and pieces and making anthology pieces. There's all these different other ways to tell your story. Why particularly comics? And like I said, shout outs to JD Calderon for that. And it goes to show you. Oh, speaking of which, if you don't know who I'm talking about here, JD Calderon does a show called Talking Comics on a Sunday. And that happens every Sunday night about 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern, if you catch it on the Indie Comics Network here. So shout outs to them and shout outs to the Indie Comic Network here. I haven't forgotten about you guys at all. It's been a while since I have frequented your shows or anything, or been available to actually talk, shop in that aspect here. And let's see. Yeah, Aaron spent $33 today on Triple C. she's telling herself here. It's like the girls are numbing on bacon. Yes, claim safe with Metarog, Cicada Sonic, and yes, I do have do this for fun and not a big seller. Yep, and he will probably have his claim sale on Monday, even though Monday is a holiday. I'm not certain if he's going to run his normal Monday show. So let us know if the claim sale. Yep, claim. Oh, I read it wrong. Yes, claim sale with Metarog and Cicada Sonic. Yep, cool. I love loving storytelling using the medium. This medium is a fun medium to tell stories with. However, not everybody is gifted in telling that story, and some of us needs that night. And some of us might need that laid back editor, and some of us, like myself, need that stern editor saying, "Bad joke, bad joke," and slap me around a bit just to make me tell the story correctly. But it is what it is. Right on, Elaine. Yeah, the girls are demanding a longer show because they took a nap and they have Monday off. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way unless you guys have something else to talk about. But that's pretty much that goes back into like it being an interactive show. I go as long as you guys have things to talk about. Yeah, Triple C is worth it, Leia. Yeah, you see, Leia didn't tell you today was the very first day that I actually bought from Triple C too. So yeah, Triple C came from a long way. For those who don't know who Triple C is, we're talking about the cheap comic collectors claim show, Triple C. Yes, but comic utilize both writing and the visual elements. I love the challenge of the medium presents and the reward of a job well done. And it's like, and I hope I haven't slapped you in months. Goes off and search for oh, that is funny. But like I said, not all of us get lucky. I had, and like I said, I consider myself blessed because I hit lightning in a bottle twice. And I consider myself hitting lightning in a bottle twice because again, Amazonia probably would have been dead if it wasn't Comixology taking interest in it. And I hit lightning in a bottle again with Prime Time Saturday Night when I proved to people that you can write a pro wrestling book where it focuses only on the actual pro wrestling as given in a television broadcast. Everybody thinks it's like, oh, you gotta tell backstory, you have to have the characters do yada yada yada, you have to, give that slice of life, like Parallax was saying. It's like, no, you could do a dedicated, this book is the representation of the pro wrestling that you see on television that corresponds with its parent book, and you don't have to read the parent book to understand what's going on. And when I did that and it hit, people started asking questions. And by the time I got to issue number 2, I knew I had lightning in the bottle at that point again. It's like, should I put on my spike heels and thigh high flats? I don't know. I don't dress you. You choose how you going to do. She said belty boot. Spikes to stop. See. See, Elaine got her cheering section now. But not everybody can catch lightning in a bottle. That's the really bottom line. It's like it takes years. It takes years to craft one book to where it gets somewhat popular. And to think, I would be almost in my 20th year come 2029. December 2029 would be my 20th year in publishing. So, yeah, it takes some time. So I'm not saying this as somebody who's like, I only been here for 3 years or 2 years and I had this success. It's like, no, this has been a journey. This has been a journey. And being that I'm been more self-publishing here, and I do have a regular 9-to-5 job, and the simple fact that 3 of my comic book series have more than one issue speaks volumes. And I'm thinking about releasing a 4th title. And the 4th title is an adult title in which I'm still kind of scared to release. But at least I'm not as scared to release this as opposed to the original book that brought me back to this industry. And I still feel that I don't have an audience for something like that just as of yet, if I release that book. But it is what it is. Oh, I almost forgot about accountability here. Working on another story for the adult anthology book here. Like I said, the adult anthology book that I'm working on, one of the stories is always more in a classroom setting that talks about aspects of lore, fetish, and the psychology behind it. So that second story for issue number 2, well, I shouldn't say story, it's more of like that lecture for issue number 2 is almost done. I'm 5 pages into the 8 pages that is going to be here. So that's kind of cool in that aspect here. It's like you're an inspiration. I like that you keep slugging away. I mean, that's the whole thing. Everybody thinks comics is easy. It's not. Oh, you could put together a comic and with $300. Good luck with that. Especially if you're planning to hire other people to work for you. Good luck with trying to make a comic book for $300. Not going to happen. Well, I take that back. If you were in 1930, yes, that could happen. If you're in the 1930s or 1940s, that could happen. In 2025, good luck with that. Let's see how far you can get. And Parallax is like laughing. Yeah, Beanie said Mr. A.A. Ron, and it's like it said Joe is sweet and sweaty. Inspiration, not perspiration. Oh man, she thought perspiration instead of inspiration. I was like, inspiration, not perspiration. Yeah. Hey, I'm the only one. I'm the only one who gets to sleep to things. Sleep things tonight. Yep, that's true. Oh, she was like, "Oh, okay." But that's where things are at. That's the accountability here. So I'm 5 pages in. Most of the pages are lettered. At least the first 4 pages are lettered here. I just haven't finished putting it together and everything. Technically, I could put together, after this story is complete, I could technically put together 2 issues of that anthology book. I'm kind of sort of leaning more towards soft launching, like how I did with Primetime Saturday Night issue 5. Not do the crowdfunding thing, not do anything like big and be like a big hurrah and everything for issue number 1. I probably do some type of promoting for it, but just happen to like mention it and talk about it a little bit more. But for right now, it's kind of like one of those things until I'm ready to say, hey, let's go ahead and do it. And trust me, if I get to like if I get to issue number 3, if I get the 3rd issue done and the stories that I want to tell, or at least the chapters that I want in the 3rd issue completed, I might make a full run at it, out of really promoting it here, because I don't know if this one would catch lightning in a bottle because it's more adult, and because of it, it becomes more of a kind of a hard sell, because this is one of the ones where you got to be of age in order to read it. And I don't know if I have the audience for something like that as of yet. But it kind of is what it is here. Dude, I almost choked on my bacon. Heck, it cost nearly $300 just for the things like copywriting, ISP. Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Those who feel that it's like, oh, I could make a good comic book with $500, like, unless you're doing everything yourself and you're not worried about barcode numbers, ISBN numbers, copyrights, and all this other stuff, good luck with that. That's all I gotta say. Good luck with it. If you don't know how to draw, if you don't know how to write, and you just like, I'm the idea guy, guess what? Have fun trying to do all that for $300. You might have to go the route of hiring people right out of high school and pay them, nickels to donuts to get that book off the ground. And in addition to that, how are you going to promote it? You're going to need more than $300. But it is what it is. Lainey has to work for Joe in 2117 with the bill that she no. I think she will be clear once I finish with Amazonia number 8. Once I finish with Amazonia number 8, I think that would be it, because Primetime Saturday Night is like a 50+ page book, and the rate that she charges me pretty much covers like almost 2/3 of that bill, and then when you add Amazonia 8, she clears it. So yeah, it wasn't that bad. And yeah, don't get me started on shipping. Yep. Yeah, it's like you could promote like Homer with a shotgun, shotgun steady on his car. Bully, blast, get your bully here, or get a good theme song like the whole thing about the softball team, the isotope top softball team that Mr. Burns had with the nuclear factory. It was like they're playing softball from Maine to San Diego. It's off. Big booty bag. Oh boy. Oh boy. That might actually work for the adult book. Get your TNA here, blast. Now Mr. Burns had done it. The power plant has it. Roger Clear. Oh wow. They're playing softball. Aaron has been enjoying Amazonia, and I think Aaron is seeing exactly why Comixology took interest. And I was about to get ready to stop Amazonia at that third issue because at comic book shows nobody was showing interest, none. I came out with AWF, people were picking that up left and right, left and right, left and right until they say it's like, where's all the pro wrestling? I want more of the pro wrestling. This is supposed to be a wrestling book. I mean, what more pro wrestling? And wave walls like yeah, that will government big as yeah. Well, that's the thing. At C2E2, I can't at C2E2, I have to sell it a certain way. I have to sell it a certain way. At least issue one has a safer cover that can be displayed, but the version cover cannot, because I have to take a consideration of people up under the age of 18 being there. Yeah, auto corrected. Yep. We're talking softball for New York to San Diego, talking softball. Madeline and Canseco's the sax is learning with the law. Ken Giffrey with his grotesquely swollen jaw, talking softball. She's about to sing the whole song here. We're talking Homer and Ozzy and the straw. Excuse me, I need to go shoot my phone. Uh-oh. Phone sucks. Blast, blast. Get your Amazon blast. Believe me, I get that. I had to take a long, hard look about covers. Yep. The episode was one of the best of anything. Exactly. And it's like, oh, we got to make sure that we win the game. So I went ahead and hired some ringers. He goes out and buys all these Major League Baseball players. And they end up winning the championship because Homer got hit in his nuts, if I remember it correctly. I like long hard yeah, his head. Yeah, he got beamed. He got beamed. That's like, I know he got hit. I was like, I wasn't certain if it was in his head or in his nuts, but he got hit by a pitch, which ended up scoring the winning run. But anyway, everybody, we're almost at the 2 hour mark here. So we're going to be winding up here unless you guys got more stuff to talk about here. Uh-oh, I have no idea what Mr. Burns is talking about. I wish I was home with my big old bag of potato chips. Potato chips. Yes. Those are that was when the Simpsons were really, really, really funny. Mr. Burns was sitting 800 sick to the bone, like, huh? No, gotta run, friends. Good show, Joe. Talk soon. Yes, we will. Nope, I'm good. I got a full day tomorrow here. So on that note, we're going to bring tonight's episode to an end. It's like gotta have to watch that episode now. Yep. Yep. And it's like, hey, Chief, it's like, oh, stop drinking the water, this, that, or the other. I want you to drink this. This will put hair on your chest. Okay, Chief. he got he got him hooked on that tonic so quickly it was messed up. It's like, oh, he can't play today. He got this weird form of gigantism. Mr. Burrs was a trip in that episode. Night, Aaron. Yeah, I love it in the championship photo. Homer is being carried by everyone. Yep, exactly. Season 3, episode 7, Homer at bat. Yep. Natalie, I thought I told you to save those cyber. Yes. And Tom Maddie's like, but I shaved my cyber. He was talking about his mustache and kept calling his mustache cyber. But I thought I did. Donnie Baseball. I still like him better than Steinbrenner. Yep. But on that note, we're going to bring tonight's episode to the end. As always, live life, grow, and be well. I will see you guys here next week, and hopefully we have another entertaining topic, something that's just as informative and as insightful as this one as tonight here. Or I could be tempted if you guys do message me enough, we could make it another Ask Joe night where anything and everything goes here. Let's see. It's like, let me see here. Yeah, I love that he literally shaved his sideburns and straight across his head. It's like other sideburns. Yep. Yes. It's like, you there, Madeline? It's like you're off the team. You're benched. Yep. Night, Elaine, and night, everybody. We are now officially off the air. Have a good rest of your weekend and enjoy Memorial Day. And also, if you get a chance, tell a fellow veteran thank you. Night.